Welcome to day 3, I think. Hopefully I'm right. Regardless, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking all things thriller mystery book recommendations, plus my spooky season TBR, which I'm really excited to share with you guys. So mostly going to be talking about thriller mysteries, and then within the thriller mystery genre, I feel like there are some subgenres of like YA, historical fiction, fiction. So I will be dabbling on those two a little bit and breaking it down that way. But overarching, the recommendations are all going to be thriller mystery books. So let's go pick them out of their shelves and get started. The first book that I have on my list that I want to talk to you guys about and recommend to you is the #1, I feel like, spooky season read that if you haven't yet read, this is the one book you need to read this spooky season, and that is Hidden Pictures. This book is my all-time favorite thriller mystery book. It is genuinely super sort of spooky, very tension-filled. The suspense is crazy, and the plot itself is really interesting too. I feel like if you liked The Housemaid by Frida McFadden and that whole series, you would enjoy this one because this is about a babysitter coming into a house to take care of a toddler, and that toddler begins to draw these really spooky pictures. And when I tell you, like, they're kind of creepy. They're included in the book too, which makes it super sort of interactive and fun and unique in that sense, but they're like kind of creepy. So I absolutely recommend this book, one, for the spooky nature itself, but also because I really enjoyed the plot. I liked the characters. I thought they were complex, and it kind of gives you a little bit of an unreliable narrator too, which I appreciate in books because it lets the reader sort of take advantage of your own thoughts and feelings towards the book, and you really get to decide how you feel. So genuinely, if you haven't read this book yet, this is the one book you should read this spooky season. Now, the rest of my recommendations, I'm not gonna lie, I don't own them, and that is because I read a lot from the library, so I don't have them on me. I'll just post a little picture here while I'm talking about the book. So the next book I want to talk about is In My Dreams I Hold a Knife. This one gives dark academia. It's about a group of friends who graduated from college, but they have to go back to their 10-year reunion. And I actually read this one recently, like last month, so it's pretty fresh in my memory. And out of the group of 7, one of the friends is murdered during college. And so coming back to the reunion, the remaining friends are very sort of suspicious about each other. I mean, the case has been like tried, someone has been convicted, but there's still a lot of secrets that need to be unearthed. So we follow all of our characters, and our main character, I won't lie, I was not the biggest fan of her, but she's kind of the one at the wheel trying to navigate this entire reunion. And I will say it was really interesting because we get a lot of interactions between these group of friends, and at one point you're kind of thinking that any one of these friends could have been the murderer, so that was fun too. I really mostly liked it for the dark academia vibe. You really dive deep into that world. There's secrets, there's like frat parties, there's like sororities as well, and competitions within that, and it's just a group of friends in college who don't always have the best motivations. So it was really interesting, it was fun, and it was great for this season, so I would definitely recommend that book. Next up, we have This Book Will Bury Me by Ashley Winstead. This is actually the same author as the last book I just talked about, actually. So she's actually one of my favorite thriller mystery authors. I think this is the 3rd or 4th book that I've read by her, and this is actually her new release from this year. And I read it earlier, a couple months ago. This one, I forgot the main character's name, but our main character goes through a really sort of life-altering change, and she's going through grief, and through her grief she finds this like internet community, and it's mostly like Reddit forum type of internet sleuths trying to solve crimes, and so she kind of goes down the rabbit hole in the sense. So if you're a fan of like Reddit forums and serial killers, then I think you would really enjoy this book because it really hits hard on those themes. I felt like the plot twists too were sort of expected. I feel like I'm not one to guess plot twists, but I did sort of kind of know what was going on, but it still made the payoff feel like a payoff. I still felt like it was worth reading. I really liked like the themes of these like not unfit, what's the right word? these people who like don't fit into certain social groups, and so they find their own group together. Misfits, that's the word that I was looking for. So it's really a group of misfits, and they find each other, and some of their motivations are to help people and to help victims. And so it's really kind of talking about the nuance of internet sleuths. So I really liked that. All of that being said, it's a very good, entertaining book. It's kind of thicker for a thriller mystery, but I was entertained the entire time. Next up we have Things We Do in the Dark. This one I think I read this year or last year, but this one is about a couple who is going through a very rocky phase in their relationship. They're a married couple, they have a son. The mother takes her son to a Seattle like Christmas market, and unfortunately the son is abducted. He's literally kidnapped, and he's a little kid. So obviously mom spirals. This does not help the already fragile relationship that she has with her husband. And there's also like this ex-best friend who is a male who's in the picture, and so we're trying to navigate all of that. And there's like a PI who is investigating this abduction because the mother doesn't feel like the police really, you know, did what they were supposed to do, even though this couple is very wealthy, and so they have a lot of ties to like the police and the community. That's kind of just like the basic synopsis of what this book is about. There's an abduction, there's secrets that come out, there's our main character who's kind of unhinged at this point because she's going through this great bout of grief while also trying to navigate like her failing relationship and an ex-best friend who's a guy. So all these different things are being juggled, and I found it really entertaining. I felt like this one, the plot twist, I did not expect, and I was literally kind of floored when it did happen. So I was very interested. I really liked it, and I think I'm just now realizing I'm describing a different book. So the book that I'm actually describing is Little Secrets by this same author. Now, the one that I had previously said I was going to recommend is also another book that I really enjoyed. Basically, to make it quick, our main character is Paris, and she wakes up on the floor of her bedroom with a bloody razor and a dead partner. Like, her husband is dead. So obviously this does not look good for her. We kind of follow her into trying to figure out what happened because she herself doesn't know if she's guilty. She doesn't think she is, but you know, we don't know that. So we kind of follow that. And this one, there is a podcast element with like a podcaster. So if you're into that sort of vibe, then that's included in this book. And overall, I felt like this book was really entertaining too, because it kind of dives into like the sex work industry and like women being in that industry, friendships in that industry, and just kind of what happens or what could happen, the increased risks of working in that industry. So I thought that was really interesting. Regardless, take away from this part of the video at least that you should read any book by this author, because I genuinely really like everything she writes, and that is so crazy that I just recommended you guys a book that I wasn't even planning on talking about, but I do recommend it because they're both really good thrillers. All right, next up, we're kind of going into our sub-genres. So the first one that I want to talk about is like a YA thriller mystery that I read, and that is 5 Survive by Holly Jackson. This follows 5 friends who are going in an RV to a trip during spring break, and the RV, something happens to it. There's like some, you know, sketchy stuff going on that actually quite literally halts them on their journey, and they all are kind of suspicious of each other. They're trying to figure out what happened, who did this, who's behind all of this. They all have secrets that are slowly coming out. They have friends and family ties with like politicians that they're like unsure of who to trust. So I really enjoyed it. The chapters are extremely short. Like, that's one of the things that I remember most about this book, so I felt like it really kept me gripped into the story. I also really enjoyed the fact that the secrets were like constantly coming out, so you were constantly being fed. So I really liked it. It was very entertaining. I would recommend it, especially for a YA thriller. Our next subgenre is horror, and this is a book that I read earlier this year. It's called The House of Bone and Rain, and this one is also about a group of friends, but they're all sort of very interesting group of friends because they're actually very low income, living in Puerto Rico, and this book takes place in the aftermath of their huge hurricane. And so we're kind of really diving into themes of poverty, of gang violence, drugs, like all of these heavy subjects, but they're kind of wrapped up into this horror thriller mystery that also has a touch of magical realism. So if any of those topics interest you, then I think you would really enjoy this book because it was fairly entertaining, especially considering all the subjects that it kind of deals with. And I thought the author did a good job of kind of blending all of the subjects in while also kind of staying true to the fiction of the story. Next subgenre is fiction, and the book that I'm going to recommend to you guys in this subgenre within the thriller mystery genre, The Compound. I read this maybe 2 months ago, and I'm sure you guys have heard of this book. It's been like fairly popular, and I really enjoyed this book. It's giving Love Island, but also kind of human nature with, I don't know, like this book was really interesting, and I feel like it's a really good book club book because it's very thought-provoking. I wish I would have read it in like one of my book clubs with my friends because it was very thought-provoking. I just had so many questions, and I feel like a lot of people will read this book and like digest it in different ways. A lot of people hated it, a lot of people loved it. I feel like I liked it, but I was like cautious of it. So basically we follow our main character, I think her name is Lily, and she is in this compound, basically picture Love Island villa, but these people need to couple up or every night someone has to leave. And the way that the people are rewarded in this compound is you have to do like tasks and you get material items. And so it's very human nature because you don't have to leave the villa. So we start kind of seeing like our characters' true motivations come out, and they each try to one-up each other. How long are they gonna stay? Are they there for love? Like, what are their motivations? So it's very interesting. It's very sort of suspenseful too because you don't really know what the characters are gonna do and why they're doing it. The end is very abrupt, I will tell you that. I enjoyed it, I liked that. I felt like the author made that a point and it fits with the story. So I really enjoyed it, but I would recommend it. All right, historical fiction, next subgenre. The first book that I want to mention is The Last House on the Street. This book I feel like is more historical fiction than thriller mystery, but I feel like it's historical fiction with a touch of thriller mystery, but I'm still gonna recommend it because I feel like it was sort of suspenseful. Like, there was a lot of heavy topics that are also discussed in this book, a lot of sort of racial themes, but I really enjoyed the story. I felt like I was hooked. The characters I was rooting for, I think I almost rated this book 5 stars. This is about a white teenager and she's going out, I forgot what like time frame this book takes place, but she's going out to try to recruit voters. And it's a very sort of hostile environment. A lot of people don't like the work that she and her like community is doing. So there are a lot of racial themes and just straight up racism that is talked about in this book. There's like a twist that I don't want to really touch on because I don't want to spoil the book, but there's a twist where I wasn't expecting, and it really just made the book so much more heavy, like so much heavier, but also so much more emotional. So I feel like this is barely, like I'm just throwing this book into this video because I really enjoyed the book. And I think you would too if more people talked about it. I don't feel like it's very popular, so that's the reason I'm mostly recommending it to you. Last book within the historical fiction genre is The God of the Woods. I'm sure you guys have heard about this book as well because it is really popular. This one is historical fiction. It's about a family, but mostly about a camper who, it's like a summer camp setting, which I love summer camp settings. So this book I really enjoyed because of that. Also the ending, I will say it's a lot more slower paced than a lot of thriller mysteries are. So maybe kind of go into the book knowing that. And so anyway, Barbara, our camper, she goes missing, and the family is definitely involved because they're very wealthy, and I think they even own the camp. So they're trying to figure out where Barbara went because her brother Bear actually mysteriously disappeared a few years back as well. So we want to figure out kind of the mystery behind all of it. Who's doing this? What happened? Why are they missing? And where are they? And there's a lot of POVs that are sort of thrown into the book, which I enjoyed, but you will have a hard time kind of keeping track, I feel, because there are just so many, but I feel like they are important because we get like camp counselors, we get family members, we get friends, like a lot of different people that kind of add a puzzle piece. The ending was really good. I feel like you have to stick through it because the ending, I was like, oh shoot, like I did not expect that. And I liked the way it ended. So again, very suspenseful, more of a slow burn type of thriller mystery. I have one more subgenre, and that is fantasy. Now, the 2 books that I want to Actually, I have these 2 books. And the 2 books that I want to recommend are actually part of a duology, and they are Phantasma and Enchantra. Now, the reason I want to recommend these specifically within this mystery thriller genre is because these are definitely mystery thrillers, and they're also sort of horror. Like, they're very spooky. If you're looking for a fantasy read that is giving Halloween, I would absolutely recommend these 2. This one is definitely giving kind of dark gothic vibes. It takes place in Louisiana, in like literally the French Quarter, and it definitely draws on the dark, spooky horror elements of that. This one takes place in Florence, Italy, but it doesn't really talk mostly about the setting. It mostly talks about like the big manor that this like competition is being held, and it's actually a hunt. So there's different rounds to this hunt. There's like siblings who have to kind of take each other out. There's definitely mentions of like paranormal beings like devils and necromancers and all of these things that make a fantasy novel truly entertaining. So I would absolutely recommend these 2 if you haven't read them. They are a duology, and I actually just recently finished Enchantra, so there's that. All right, now I want to kind of get into my spooky season TBR. These are the books at the top of my TBR, ones that I want to prioritize and hopefully read by the end of the season. The first book is very intimidating, and that is 11/22/63 by Stephen King. The amount of times I've talked about this book, the amount of times it's been on a TBR of mine, crazy. Like more than once for sure, maybe like 3, 4, 5 times. So this time I'm really hoping it's the last time, because I feel like I actually have the motivation to read it. Like I myself want to pick it up. I feel like back then it was more of like the outside pressure, but this time I am motivated to read it. This is a time travel book following a high school teacher. I've read about 20 pages of it in the past, and I can't wait to read the rest. This is Stephen King at his best. I've heard nothing but amazing things about this book, and I'll be quite honest, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know why this gives me spooky season vibes. Like, I don't even think it is, but I want to read it this season for some reason. So this is one of the books that I will hopefully be reading this season. Next up is A Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. This is the start of a new series by Stephanie Garber. If you guys have been watching along, I recently finished Caraval in that trilogy, and now I want to start this one because I've heard actually even better things about this series than Caraval, and I absolutely loved Caraval. That was like a 5-star series for me. So very excited to pick this one up. This is a fantasy book, so I think reading fantasy during this season is definitely at the top of my priority list, and I feel like I'm really in a fantasy mood lately, and this is one of my most highly anticipated reads, specifically this series, so I just can't wait to read this. Don't really know what it's about. Next up, we have One Dark Window, which is another fantasy series. I'll be honest, I don't really know what this one is about, but again, I feel like this is one of the more popular fantasy duologies out there, and so I feel like that's my main motivation for reading this, but I feel like this has been on my TBR, like my mental TBR, for like a few years, but I only bought it last month, and so I feel like I really just want to read it since it's still like kind of fresh in my head of me wanting to read it. This is probably going to be read this month. It says Elspeth needs a monster. The monster might be her, so we're getting into some monsters. I, again, don't really know what it's about, but I'm very excited. I feel like there's some pictures in here too, which is interesting. We'll see. The next book is not a fantasy book, but it is actually Cleopatra and Frankenstein. Now, I feel like the main reason I'm throwing it into this spooky season TBR is because of the title. Like, Frankenstein is mentioned, so of course I have to read it. I don't actually think the monster of Frankenstein is a character in this book, and I think it's mostly just a woman coming of age. Oh, it's Cleo and then Frank. Oh, okay, that's funny. Oh. So it's Cleo, that's her main character. This takes place in New York, and she meets Frank, who is 20 years older than her. His life is full of success, and he offers her the opportunity to apply for a green card. So they run headfirst into a romance that neither of them can quite keep up with. Yeah, I'm excited for this. I feel like I didn't really even know what it was about, but now that I read the back, I'm actually really interested in reading this, and it's short, so I feel like that also helps, and the cover, the title, they're giving spooky season. 2 more books that are on my spooky season TBR. The next one is Kristen Hanna, The Four Winds. I'll be honest, I think it's the cover that's giving me fall vibes, spooky season vibes. That's it. This is a historical fiction book about the Great Depression. I guess that theme itself is also spooky season vibes, so I will not elaborate further. Last but not least, another fantasy book. what is it? Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil, V.E. Schwab, the author of the, what's it called? The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I really pushed that book off for like, literally, I'm not even kidding, like 5 years. And I read it and loved it, so I'm not doing that to this book. It is pretty thick, but I've heard really good things so far. It's about like lesbian vampires, so I've heard fantasy. Like, this is exactly what I've been wanting to read right now, so while I'm in the mood for it, I think I'm gonna take it off my TBR. It's giving kind of fall season. It's giving, you know, I'm gonna stop saying that. Sorry, that's so annoying. The back says 3 young women, their bodies planted in the same soil, their stories tingling like roots. One grows high and one grows deep and one grows wild. All of them grow teeth. Okay, that ate. I cannot wait for this book. So this is also on my TBR. And I think that just about concludes this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. These are all the books that I'm gonna be hopefully reading this season, and we'll just see how the rest of the month goes. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye.